Good afternoon and welcome to the pre-agenda interviews for Thursday, March 9th, 2023. We have several appointments. I'll allow the clerk to read, but I just want to acknowledge first that we're joined by Councilwoman Warwick. Madam Clerk, would you please read the purpose of all the interviews?
Bill number 1186, resolution informing council of the appointment of Stephanie Turman as a member of the Pittsburgh Parking Authority Board for a term to expire January 31st, 2027. Bill number 1183, resolution appointing Annalise Martinez as a member of the Public Art Committee of the Public Art and Civic Design Commission for a term concurrent with that of the mayor. Bill number 1222, resolution appointing Tammy Thompson as a member of the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board as the low-income homeowner representative for a term to expire April 30th, 2025. Bill 1237, resolution appointing Sanjeev Mandahar as a member of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission, Pittsburgh Public Schools representative for a term set to expire December 31st, 2027. Bill number 1238, resolution appointing Kelsey Ripper as a member of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission as a community organization representative for a term set to expire December 31st, 2027. And Bill number 1239, resolution appointing Deborah Steinberg as a member of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission as a university representative for a term set to expire December 31st, 2027.
Thank you, and I will mention that we're also joined by Councilwoman Strasburger. Are there any other members? No? And so we're going to begin, but I do want to say that members will be coming out as we go through the interviews. And I want to say that we have several interviews here, so please keep your questions and comments directed towards the appointee at the time and towards the interview process. I will also add that as you're being interviewed and you're asked questions, you have to wait for council members to ask you a question and give you the opportunity to speak back. Otherwise, they may make a comment and not want a response back, but you can always ask if you can respond. With that said, we're going to begin with the Public Art Committee. We have one appointment. And can we have them? Who is the appointee, Madam Clerk?
For the Public Art is Annalise Martinez.
Annalise Martinez. Can we have you please come to the table? You'll sit here. Yeah. And when you speak, can you please pull the mic close to you so that the public can hear you at home? Thank you.
Yes.
Just state your name and a little synopsis about yourself for the public.
My name is Annalisa Martinez. I'm an artist and I work at the Warhol Museum, practice facilitation, project management, and change management.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Warwick, do you have any questions?
Yeah, sure. So I guess for myself, in terms of public art, what do you see? Well, I'm a big fan of interactive, right? Of art that moves and changes with the public, right? Rather than just things that you walk by and sort of, So how do you see your role in facilitating those types of projects with communities?
Absolutely. I studied under Winifred Lutz at Tyler. She's the artist that made the garden at the mattress factory. And the whole premise of that piece is that it moves and changes over time, over a span of a year, over a span of a season, over a span of 10 years, 100 years. And so I'm technically trained in thinking about how a space moves and changes over time with people, but also have extensive experience thinking about different materials in space, in different environments, how little hands or big hands or vandalism might impact a piece or might be, beneficial to the piece, and how a piece might wear because of human touch or environmental conditions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's it? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger, did you have any questions, comments? Councilwoman, we can't hear you. Can we get Councilwoman Strasburger on? She's not muted. Okay. Nope. No. Could she maybe log off and log back on? Would that help? Councilman, could you log off and log back on and we'll come back to you? I'm sorry. tell me when she comes back on. So I'll just say, the Andy Warhol Museum, thank you for bringing that wealth of knowledge and information to this commission. And I will say my neighbor, growing up, Mr. Fitzpatrick, actually taught Andy Warhol how to paint when he was younger. So, yeah, he didn't teach me anything. Okay. But anyway, so is there anything you'd like to say while we're waiting for Councilwoman?
Just that I'm very grateful to have the opportunity, and Pittsburgh means a lot to me, and I have a lot of experience building works of public art and project managing them. So I'm hopeful that that expertise is useful here for the city. Yeah.
Thank you. And so do we have Councilwoman Strasburger back yet? No. So I'm just going to say, I hope that you'll be a voice for Mike. Mike, only concern is always when people come to the table is I ask, what can you bring to the West End or District 2 area? Because there's a lack of art, public art. We had a few pieces done, like paintings in Sheridan. Actually, it got so bad, somebody took out the one installation. 2 installations now. Sarah will have to talk about the one. But 2 installations in my district. I think the public process needs to be broadened a little bit, because sometimes people, but it's like with everything, until people see it, they don't realize whether they're going to love it or hate it or whatever. And for my district, there was a group of students took out in Sheridan, and then an artist had to have hers removed from Mount Washington. But having said that, most of us love a lot of different types of art. I think we'd like to see more of it in the West End neighborhoods. And so I'd just like to make sure that you'll be an advocate to make sure that there's not only diversity in art, but geographic diversity. And I've always asked for that. So
Would you like me
would
to?
you, yeah.
I'd
just
be happy to. Yes, my sister and her very young family at the time were one of the 200 families that lived in West End proper for a long time, so I'm very familiar, and I've done a bunch of advocacy work with the Sheridan Library, with the Greenfield School, and with various community groups that are based in the West End, like Keisha.
Greenway School.
Greenway, excuse
Yeah,
me. Yeah, and helped to finance a learning pod in the height of the pandemic crisis so that children had a physical environment to go to while school was not available to them. And so the territory is very familiar. I'm a North Sider through and through, and so also very familiar with the district, both on school board and zoning processes. And I think it's a matter of evangelizing, educating, particularly out of school time organizations who then we could support to find funding or other means of doing installations like that, and then finding individual artists that work in the area as well.
So my son lives in Northside, so I'll be okay with it. Actually, I was born and raised on Fifth Avenue, so I'm okay with any part of the city.
Very good.
I actually, love the entire city. But for me, I want to make sure I advocate for the West End to get their fair share of some public art, because some of it is so amazing, and they love some of the stuff that when they see it in another neighborhood, they're like, why can't we get that? So it would be nice to have some bigger pieces, I think. And Councilwoman Strasburger, you're back on. Can you try talking again? No. No, Councilwoman. Oh, wait, what was that?
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I tried all those before, but for some reason it worked now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for your patience. I wanted to find out if, just basically why you're interested in serving in this capacity.
She asked an actual interview question.
The POP district is a strategic development of the eastern North Shore that is being spearheaded by the Andy Warhol Museum. But as an institution, I have always found it to be important that we're using that institutional prowess or privilege to then be able to apply that to places that may not have those means or the support to bring art to places like the West End. And so I think that, it's important that we have critical eyes on and including in our government, but also then it's a huge opportunity for me as a Northside resident and also someone who was born and raised in Pittsburgh to help enliven and continuously refresh the land and the territory and arts and culture here, because it really is an economic driver and a public health concern when we see public art in the public realm.
Thank you. That syncs up with what I've heard a lot of your fellow soon-to-be commissioners saying in their interviews. So I think it's going to be a really interesting, both on the art and the civic design side of it. So I think it's going to be a really interesting set of deliberations, conversations, and perspectives that are brought into this process. And I'm really hopeful for what it can do for the city and its promotion of everything that touches civic design or art. I'm glad you mentioned public health, because I do think that falls under that banner as well. So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Yes, thank you. And we're also joined by Councilwoman Deb Gross, and give her a second to sit down here. Councilwoman, this is the Public Art Committee, and I didn't know if you had any questions, comments.
Appreciate it. No, I'm sorry I'm late. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you. Thank you. And the appointment will be confirmed on Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks.
And then we're going to go to the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board with Tammy Thompson. Just because I like her, I'm taking her. How are you? I haven't seen you forever. Yeah, good to see you. And do you want to identify yourself for the public, and if you have a little synopsis you want to say or anything?
Sure. My name is Tammy Thompson. I am a long-time resident of the city of Pittsburgh, currently living in the East End. I am the founding executive director of Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, which is a nonprofit organization focused on creating economic justice opportunities for families living in Allegheny County through first-time homeownership and first-time entrepreneurship.
Can I say, I met you when you were working in the West End, so I know you're very familiar.
A long time ago.
A long time
Yes,
ago.
it's
You
been a
helped
long
me so
time.
much. So I want
Good
to
to
thank
see
you for all your help.
Absolutely.
And Councilwoman, do you have any questions?
Hi, thank you. And it's great to see you here. And I appreciate your interest and willingness to serve on the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board. You know, I'm curious how, in your mind, if any connections that occur to you between the kind of investments in Main Streets and in small business and entrepreneurship and housing stabilization, because I kind of have them all on my bullet list, right? And so I appreciate hearing any of your thoughts.
Yes, I do believe that they are very much connected. I think homeownership and entrepreneurship are signals of stable communities. I think the more homeownership you have and the more community-based entrepreneurship you have, it's a strong signal of revitalized neighborhoods. So I think they definitely go together. I think from an individual family standpoint, homeownership can be an impetus to entrepreneurship. I think it is difficult for people to get capitalized to start their own businesses, and having homeownership in strong markets where families are developing equity in their homes is a great way for them to sort of have their own bank to fund business ideas. And, you know, who wouldn't want to invest in their child who says, well, I don't necessarily want to go to college, but I'm interested in starting my own business, and being able to draw equity from home ownership to invest in entrepreneurship. So I think they go hand in hand, which is why we are hyper-focused on both of those initiatives.
That's wonderful to hear. I sometimes often say it also as they're both different kinds of wealth building. And too often some of the economic development programs that cities have done kind of suck wealth out of neighborhoods. And I think it should be the concern of this table to make sure we're helping our residents build wealth.
Absolutely.
And so, great. I look forward to working with you. I also
Thank
serve
you.
on the Housing Opportunity Fund.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you. Councilwoman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, just sort of in general about the funds. What is your take on how successful we've been in getting those funds where they need to go to the specific people who who they should be going to, and then how do you think we can improve?
So I have to be honest. I don't know a lot about how the funds have been distributed. That does sort of give me pause, considering that the work that I do is specific to helping vulnerable populations of families become homeowners. I don't know a lot of families that we've worked with that have received funds from Housing Opportunity. So one of the things that I would love to be contributing to is helping to market and increase information reaching the community about the funds and how they are accessed.
Yeah, that's, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I sort of have the same questions, and things I've heard have been anecdotal, right? But sort of folks getting, that, I mean, not to say that, it's all based on income levels, et cetera, but not, not necessarily exactly the folks that we're trying to get the funds
Yes.
to. So it's sort of almost like folks who really are able to sort of navigate the website and like figure out the process and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do think it would be very beneficial. It's one of the things that I'm hoping to be a conduit to getting that information specifically to the organizations that are working directly with people on the ground. So the more information that organizations like ours and other housing counseling agencies have about these funds and these programs, the better we can get that information to prospective buyers.
Yeah, and it would also, as much as possible, to really have, because, sometimes these processes can be very complex, and it's nice to sort of have a little one-on-one support, kind of guide you through.
Yeah, and just being honest, when we're talking about real estate, most real estate transactions, even rental transactions, have a very tight timeline, right? And so if the process to access funds is exceeding the normal process of either entering into a rental agreement or entering into a purchase agreement, it makes it challenging for people to access and use the funds appropriately.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Strasburger, did you have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, great to see you, and thank you for your willingness to serve. I wish I could be there in person today. I wanted to allow you to just expand on, or give you the opportunity, if you wanted to expand on the your prioritization of home ownership, and whether that was home ownership in addition to, expanding opportunities for home ownership in addition to rental, or kind of prioritizing that over what I think is, a lot of assistance going to low-income rental assistance. So how you think of those two as they balance each other or work with each other in the city and in this fund specifically. And also if there's any thought that you've given to the different price points and the different levels of affordability in housing, deeply affordable, and how that balances with sort of the missing middle, how that balances with workforce housing. If there's anything you wanted to add there, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to discuss that a little bit more in depth, or your experience with those that you work with, and what you're hearing from them in terms of what their needs are.
Yeah, so from my perspective, and I can't believe how long I've been doing this work. It's been a long time, but from my perspective, as a city, as a county, I think there has been an imbalance in the focus on housing. I think because we have been trying to stave off a rental housing crisis for so long, that we have also neglected the importance of wealth building through home ownership and creating opportunities for the most vulnerable populations of people to build wealth through home ownership. I think it's really, really important, not just for families, but for communities to deepen those opportunities. So I think we have a lot more work to do as a city to develop opportunities for home ownership. I do believe that we are losing a window of opportunity to do that as housing prices are soaring and quickly soaring. So we are definitely losing our window of opportunity to get more families into home ownership. But that is what, as an organization, we are hyper-focused on that, because we recognize that window of opportunity is closing, and it is especially closing for the Black community. And the communities, any of our communities that are predominantly black and historically black, all it takes is a drive through them to see that that lack of investment in homeownership opportunity is contributing to the deterioration of our communities. So I think it's extremely important to hyper focus on that. What can we do to expand the inventory, right? We have to expand the inventory. So as we and others like us who are in this space of housing counseling and educating people to become homeowners, we are preparing people at a rate much higher than the inventory. So it's part of the reason why we're losing our population. People aren't finding the opportunities to build wealth at the rate that we would love to see. So one of the things that I'm really excited about and have been working on for almost the last 20 years is developing relationships, because we, as you know, none of us can do this alone. It's going to take investment from the city, the county, the state. It's going to take investment from grassroots organizations and everybody who is interested in trying to solve this issue. We're all going to have to figure out how to do it together, especially as housing costs are skyrocketing. And unfortunately, people's wages are staying stagnant. And so those opportunities are just getting further and further away from people. And we have to figure out some creative and innovative ways to close that gap.
Thank you. I really appreciate all that you say there, and that you'll be bringing that sentiment onto this board. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you. I had to have an attorney turn on the mic for me. Thanks. Anyway, but we're always advocating for that. So I hope that you'll be another voice to advocate for some of that. One of the things I also want to talk about is, and I hope that the Housing Opportunity Fund will do more of, is in my district, we have an overabundance of housing, affordable housing. We actually need some market rate housing in our district to stabilize the neighborhood. And that's what the study said, that's what but I've added even more affordability. Since then, I've added more, worked with people to add more. But one of the things I did was in Fairywood, they have been asking for years, the residents, they want to stay in Fairywood. They can't maintain their homes, even with help from this Housing Opportunity Fund. It's just not enough.
Yeah.
And it's not enough, and physically they just can't do some of the things. So they needed new space. So we actually are building affordable patio homes.
Nice.
In Fairywood, so the residents can stay. There are about 44, I think, units, all individual homes, but they'll have their independence, but they'll have a safer home. But I've talking with seniors across the city of Pittsburgh, it's an issue across Pittsburgh, and we don't have a lot of patio homes in Pittsburgh. Right outside the city, we have lots of them, but there's just not a real effort to keep people in the city of Pittsburgh once their home is become too unmanageable for them. So I hope that will be some of the other affordable housing that you advocate for, is homes for seniors. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I hate to say it, but we've been neglectful. We've been neglectful in this space and thinking about, I think we may be suffering from analyzation paralysis, right? We're constantly analyzing. But real estate is one of those spaces that you have to move and you have to have some action. Things have to happen. We are losing inventory to investors day by day by day. It's a pretty scary rate that we're losing inventory. And so all across the board, from low income to very low income, to working families, to seniors, to young folks who are starting families, we have got to be more creative and innovative about sustaining and developing new inventory. We've got to do it because the people with cash are doing it. And they're doing it and they're sitting on property. They're not, in a lot of cases, even interested in renting or selling it. They just want to hold it. So we've got to make some movement really, really soon as a city and a county, or we're going to continue to lose our population at very high rates.
So one of the things that makes me absolutely insane is in Sheridan, there's a lot of people coming in, buying homes, renovating them, and they renovate a lot of the homes without permits. And our inspections, I'm telling, I mean, they'll say, "Oh, we stopped them," or we to put a stop work order. I'm sorry, this doesn't happen in other boroughs surrounding my district. It just doesn't. And so when I see it happening here in Pittsburgh, I think we're allowing it to happen. We're contributing to the blight in a lot of ways between our own lack of investment from URA into some of our neighborhoods, and also by the lack of enforcement in areas that should be have things enforced. And so when I see Sheridan getting overtaken by rental properties that are not from people outside of the city who can't hold anybody accountable, it makes me so angry because I feel like we're contributing to that, because a stop work order is one thing, but I've seen them tell people that they had to take down a deck, they had to take down at the same time they weren't enforcing some of these permits in the city, or they were according to the way they enforced them. There was a woman one time in Elliott who was replacing slats in her fence, 3 slats, and she got cited. And then when she got cited, she got slapped with, then you had to have an occupancy permit. So her fence ended up costing her so much money, and she was just trying to replace something and do something right. But yet, down the street, there was so much happening with development, somebody turning a house, a single-family unit, into multiple rentals. Well, they're also not safe a lot of times. You'll
That's
find out
right.
that a lot of times those places that are doing it that way are subpar housing. They don't have adequate heat, electricity, water. We had one in the Water and Sewer Authority shut off all their water for all the properties that they owned, and he was still renting every one of those facilities. And some of them were in Fairywood, and some were in Sheridan. So, but yet he lived in a suburb right next door. So, so it kind of it aggravates me, but I hope that there will be some conversations with the Housing Opportunity Fund about building quality housing and quality rentals, and so that there's and how we intend to hold the city accountable for making sure that we're doing what needs to have happen here.
Absolutely. I think holding our public accountable is really important. Holding our public institutions that were designed to support the community and to serve specifically the most vulnerable populations of people, we've got to hold them accountable. And yeah, that's all I'll say.
I think it'd just be worth a conversation, and I want to say this has happened for every year since I've been here. So this is not isolated to one administration,
This has
one
been
director.
a long time.
It's been going on for a long time, and I mean, honestly, when I first got here, it was BBI, and back then there was all the stories about BBI, the horror stories, and I got it. I'm thinking, God, and then I met some of them. I'm like, wow, this is a tough, and it's difficult to do some of the work in the community. So,
Yes.
I mean, I think that they have a difficult job, but I think there's also we've got to sometimes think outside the box and do things a little bit differently
That's
around
right.
here to make sure that we have livable arrangements for everybody in our city. Okay, with that said, your appointment will be on Tuesday for confirmation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
I think this is a great appointment by the mayor's office. Thank you. And then now we have Pittsburgh Parking Authority. We're going to do Clean Pittsburgh Commission last because there's 3 interviews. I think you'll be talking a little bit longer. We'll be talking a little bit longer.
I unfortunately have to go I have a 2:00. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyway.
Thank you. No, thanks for being here. You come to almost everything, so you're good. Stephanie. Sorry. Good afternoon, Stephanie. Do you want to introduce yourself for the public, and if you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is
Talking to the mic, please.
Stephanie Turman.
You can pull close.
Pardon me?
You can pull it closer to you. Yeah. I don't want you
Yes.
to have to sit on the table. Okay.
My name is Stephanie Turman. I'm a community organizer, public servant by heart. I've been appointed, and I'm honored to accept the appointment from the mayor's office for the Pittsburgh Parking Authority.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I happen to know you from a lot of political stuff I see you. Councilwoman, do you want to say a few questions? Have any questions before you leave?
I actually do just have one question with regards to, thank you for being here today and for, volunteering to serve in this role. Just with regards to the parking authority, to the responsibilities of the parking authority, we've heard a lot from our police about sort of, we're sort of asking our police to do lots of things, right? And one of those things that we're asking them to do is dealing with abandoned cars, right? Cars that have just been, I get tons of emails about abandoned cars, et cetera, and there's a unit within the police that handles those. What would be your thoughts on, I would like to see the parking authority actually take that over, to not just be dealing with the metered spots, but just be dealing with abandoned and illegally parked cars overall. I don't know if you have thoughts about that.
Well, right offhand, and that's a good question.
Do you mind if I just say something real quick?
What,
sure.
right off?
Want to say that?
If it's
Yeah, sure,
if
of
it's an
course.
abandoned car in a public right of way, that is beyond the parking authority's purview. That's beyond the parking authority's purview. If it's not a metered spot or a leased spot, that's not. There's a state law that governs how to handle abandoned properties, or in this case, cars. So according to state law in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there's an officer in the police department designated as what's called a salvor. And that's a special role in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to deal with abandoned vehicles. And it's because of title issues and all sorts of other stuff that you have to create a special state law to deal with abandoned cars in the right of way. If it's an abandoned car in your parking garage, that's a different story.
I apologize, Councilman. I just want to make sure that that's clear for the public, because I think a lot of times people are wondering why, why somebody doesn't do this or somebody doesn't do. There's definitely rules that are identified according to state law for a lot of the stuff that we do. But I'm sorry, did you have anything else? Did you want to say anything about?
No, I have nothing to add to that clarification.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilwoman?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that there's a state law, but at the same time, I feel like we sometimes do get into these, we get boxed into this, like, well, there's nothing we can do, and it is an issue, right? And if there's a car, and this is just in general, I mean, we do have a parking authority. If you have a car parked in your private lot, you can have it towed. I just feel like there should be a mechanism for us to manage this situation without just having it be a pileup of months and months and months, for our officers, I mean, which is essentially a non-urgent issue, so to speak. It just seems like, it doesn't seem like the right task for our police force to be handling abandoned cars. At any rate, that's, yeah.
But we'll wait. We'll let you get on there, and then you can come back and tell us what you think. Thank you, Councilwoman. And Councilman Wilson, since you serve on the Parking Authority, do you want to go next?
Sure. Or I realize
Yeah.
Yep.
You're next. Go ahead.
we were actually having a executive session for the Parking Authority before I walked in the door. And so, there's always a busy schedule, but I want to just recognize that even, in current times we'll go over and it's a pleasure to see you here, and I had a pleasure working in the past and looking forward to working with you again. And so even like 2 seconds ago,
Yes.
we're meeting talking about how revenue is going at the Parking Authority and what we can do to increase revenue. So it's always a topic of conversation. I guess I just want to hear about some of your experience, because I might have missed some of it, but I know that you have a lot of experience being on serving on different boards, and was it the Port Authority board, now the PRT board that you were on?
I am
so
currently serving. Yes.
Oh, currently serving. Oh, great.
Port
Great.
Authority, when you're done, Councilwoman Warwick might want to have a conversation with you.
And let me make it perfectly clear. I've just been appointed just within a matter of months ago. And receiving the information has been very educational on the parking authority. I believe our city most of our authorities face uphill battles in a lot of areas, especially when it comes to dealing with the public. I know when I say uphill battles, you bring up abandoned cars. Thank you for addressing that. We deal with homeless that want to sleep in garages. We deal with a plethora of public issues. Being educated within the last 3 weeks on the authority itself and how we are able to grow some revenue, which I just missed that meeting, which was a financial meeting, and I was hoping to get more information prior to this. But I think a lot of times, we have a lot of missed opportunities where we can think outside of the box and begin to tackle some of the issues as it relates to a lot of our authorities. And the young lady that went before me, who was very impressive with thinking, to me, outside of the box on how to tackle some of our home ownership and home affordable housing issues. As I serve on the board, what I bring to the table is definitely a different approach. It's not just about, it's not just about how to keep revenue, but also how is our communities affected by some of how we generate revenue as well. And my thoughts are, I live on the north side. I live in between 2 stadiums. Cars park in front of my house all the time. Do I like it? No. But I deal with it. I get tickets. I know no one else around this table has gotten one, but I have.
I've got plenty.
Do
of
I
them,
like
okay?
it? But do I like it? No.
I got 3 right outside the building in my own parking spot when I ticked off a mayor, okay?
Fantastic. So you know what I mean.
And I
Do you
paid
like it? No. However, does it has to take place? Yes. But how are we as an authority approaching it in a way that we're looking at the issue holistic? Like, for example, I started off talking about living down the street from 2 stadiums. Is there permit parking on the streets for those residents? Is there ways that we can protect our communities for people coming in for big concerts and leaving debris all over the place, or the homeless sleeping in garages? So when I sit on an authority, those are some of the people issues, or some of the issues. When I say I'm a public servant by heart, that's what I mean. Communities. How are we approaching some of our major issues and still addressing our community needs? People that live here and make this city what it is, that's been longtime residents. And are their voices being heard? And I would like to think so when I get to the table to say, yes, your voice in my communities are being heard because I'm bringing up your issues to the front for it. So now that I'm appointed on this board, we build a lot of garages as well. Or some of those dollars going to the smaller businesses. We partnering with and creating small business opportunities. How are we getting that word out? What is our threshold on some of the diversity that we bring to the table as well? So I don't know a lot about the parking authority, but I have been spending time in gathering a lot of information and thinking through some of the questions that you probably asked me that I'm not an expert on today is parking. But I hope I can get to become
Yeah, so
one.
that's why I was just going to direct a question towards the current experience that you have and being on the PRT board. What have you learned there that you're excited to see if it's either taking place here on this board, whether it's how we manage the budget or how we work in the meetings or just some of the challenges that have happened at the port, I keep wanting to say Port Authority, the PRT, that you all were able to overcome and just how you're ready for the, Parking Authority Board in that respect.
And that's a good question. Thank you for asking. First of all, we have a dynamic CEO, Catherine Kellerman, who came to our city and definitely did a think outside the box, thinking outside the box approach. During the pandemic, we didn't shut down. PRT still operated. We're very proud of that. Around the clock, we were able to keep those buses running. And that took a lot of effort and teamwork from the employees. And I always, one of the things that I think is very important, you have to recognize your staff constantly because they're our heroes. They're on the front line. And that's one of the things that we tend to do over at the Port. We do a lot of recognition of the hard work that the frontliners do. As far as the pandemic, it hit hard, and everything is slowly coming back. Will it come back the way it used to be? I don't believe so. But the Parking Authority also have been affected by the pandemic, and as we talk about revenues and people deciding to work from home and take on a different occupation, whether it's entrepreneurship and go somewhere else and not come downtown, those are all uphill battles, and it gives some thought. But again, I'll always go back to it's a matter of being open and creative and thinking outside of the box. If we continue to do business as usual, that's what we'll get, business as usual. So again, I'm in it for the ride and to bring to what I can to the table, and what that outside the box thought is. I have no problem with speaking up, and I don't bite my tongue.
Right. The one part that I really enjoyed you talking about was the workers that at PRT and what they do on a daily basis and how to support them, because it's no different than at the Parking Authority.
That's right.
We had the unfortunately when the pandemic happened, there was not a layoff, but there was a I don't know what the correct term would be, but a lot of the security guards, there wasn't work. So they did leave for a short amount of time, but it was the board that brought them back and included them in the 2021 budget.
That's right.
So that we could continue to follow the ordinance here at the city that any parking garage in the city of Pittsburgh, must have on-site security in person, and it can't be the attendant that's working downstairs. Right. So that was put in place quite some time ago, and we continually work through that topic of spending money appropriately, and the topic of security comes up a lot. And quite frankly, these are good union jobs, and they provide security to the people who park in our parking garages. And I just think it's critical that we continue to support these workers in that way. And additionally, the enforcement officers that go out every day and do the work, where people, could you imagine giving a ticket to someone as that's your fate. They walk out of the restaurant and you're giving them a ticket. There's that interaction right there. They've had very unpleasant things happen to them, and their contract was up, recently, and it was renewed. And we just, the board was very concerned with how, just how they've been treated and how the work environment was. And so we were all on board to make sure their contract was
and that's
met a livable wage and something that, would bring people to that job in the future. People that we still struggle to increase the amount of parking enforcement officers that are employed. So that's something that you'll see is that, there are other jobs out there, other opportunities where you don't have to have those interactions with someone when you're putting a ticket on their car. So they're doing the work for us so that we can collect revenue and we need to support them. So I'm really appreciative of the comments that you made in that respect. And other than that, I'm looking forward to work with you.
Frontline workers, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, important.
Thank you, Councilman. And Councilwoman Gross?
Hi, thank you. Good to see you here.
always a pleasure.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
willingness to spend your life energy with us and contribute your skills to our problem solving here. We are struggling across the board, as are other cities and as employers across the country, with trying to figure out how to help our employees kind of live their lives, but successfully and stay with us and make, help them hopefully choose to work with us, right? It really is a struggle for a workforce these days. And I too I think there's more, have had thoughts about how can we really help our employees just achieve what they are trying to achieve, right? And it's part of us all kind of, investing in the people and the residents, and as well as, and the workers are our residents in the city of Pittsburgh. Similarly, our business models are changing for a lot of city departments, and as you alluded to a little bit in your comments, that especially is true of parking, because, our goal at this table is just to, as a city, I think cities exist to help the peoples and goods and services find each other. Right? And it may not be by car, especially now when you can be at a hearing like this digitally and not physically. And that also means everything isn't also downtown the way it was 100 years ago. So we have different destinations. For a long time, I've been saying that because the neighborhoods in District 7 that I represent, from Lawrenceville, Bloomfield, all the way up through kind of Friendship and Baum Center corridor, the destinations have changed, right? So there's a big job center in Lawrenceville that really wasn't there even 10 years ago, right? So not just the Strip District is Robotics Row, but Lawrenceville as well. And so there are people going to daytime jobs there from around the region. And guess Port Authority mostly goes downtown.
Right.
And so now you have cars going someplace where they weren't going before. But really, we should be, I think, working from the city side and from our various other authorities and entities, whether it's getting water there or whether it's getting investment dollars there from the URA, and also kind of getting our people to the places they go. That means a changing role for the parking authority, because the constituents I represent don't all want to have to move their car if they have one. And I still have a significant percentage of people who don't have a car and still need to get to their destinations. And we know that citywide, that is very true of our city residents, that we need to help them get places. And so what does that mean? This is just like kind of a big question that I don't expect you to have a fully thought out answer to, because I don't think we have consensus and thoughts as a public of like, well, so what does that mean? But we do have assets in a parking authority, right? And so you own properties in various places.
Yes.
And so, and you've served on other boards, and you worked at the housing authority as an employee, not as a board member. Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
so,
was an employee.
and it's a very wide open question. But if you've got any thoughts there? So the way I've said it before is that even like people's not just journey to work, but like journey to the doctor or journey to school in my district has changed. There are schools where there were not schools for 30 years. There are no churches where there always were churches. There are small businesses where for decades there really weren't small businesses on those blocks. And then it's certainly bigger employers' destinations too. So it's kind of just like, now it's thrown wide open, right? And so in our role of kind of making sure people can get to where they need to go so that they can not just have work, but also get the things that they need on a daily basis, we have some powers as a city, but we're going to need our authorities kind of to get in line with us if we're going to make people's daily lives easier. Let me just put it that way. I don't know if you have any response to that.
It was a lot.
That's big thoughts, deep thoughts with Deb Gross at a interview hearing. So I apologize, but I would love to follow up with
answer.
you on that. Yeah.
Let's follow up, but I think communications is key. I think the authorities need to constantly or come up with some kind of communication plan that we can understand ourselves, because I believe that everyone is moving in a direction to meet the goal of our city and our communities. But when we're working in our own silos and not talking to one another, we're all, if you understand what I'm saying, we're all saying and know that we need the same thing, but we're not saying it to each other.
Right, so we
a
might
better
not just need fresh
communication-
ideas, but we need to be willing to actually do the work.
Do the work
Differently than
not
we did last year
analyze
or
it,
the year before.
Not continue to analyze what we need to do and put it on the shelf, because we always come up with some market plan,
I
some
have
strategy,
some big shelves
and it
with
goes
some
on the
big
shelf.
plans on them.
and
Yeah.
I just think at some point we need to do it. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Not talk about it, be about it. How about that? That's short term.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I've got. I also am going to need to leave. I apologize, Madam Chair.
No, thank you. Thanks for being here.
You're
Councilwoman
so
Strasburger?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for your willingness to serve. I appreciate it. And I was thinking of some of the bigger picture issues as well, but I'll limit it to this, that, in some of our communities in Pittsburgh, we know that we are trying to disincentivize car use and parking because they're urbanizing more quickly, re-urbanizing more quickly than others. That's not the case everywhere, but as we think about a changing city where, we want walkable communities, we want to be able to get from here to there without the use of a car. How do we continue to keep the parking authority relevant and helpful toward, all the goals that we share? In those cases, whether it's, thinking about how we utilize curb space, how we recoup the costs of the assets that Councilwoman Gross mentioned, really leveraging the assets that the parking authority has for, to pay dividends on in the future on what we can be investing in. Those are some of the thoughts I've had. I did serve on the Parking Authority Board prior to Councilman Wilson, and we did get into some of those conversations, but largely it was around real tangible projects like, should we build another parking garage, or should we build a parking garage that in 30 years could be converted into, a condo building or an office building. So I know that the board has maybe works around the edges of those big picture conversations, but I too share this sort of sentiment around, if we can be injecting this thought of creating synergies between PRT and the parking authority, and thinking about a changing city and how cities are changing across the country and around the world, in the way that we travel. Injecting that into the conversation as much as possible. That's something that I would hope that all of our board members would be, thinking about, if not talking about all the time.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you again for your willingness to serve. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. And we're also joined by Councilman Coghill. Councilman Coghill?
Hello.
Yeah, so most of the council members, I was listening out back, kind of covered anything I had to add, but I just wanted to tell you have my full support. I've known you for some time now, and you're a big asset to whatever you apply yourself to, and I know that about you. So welcome aboard. Well, not quite yet, I guess, but you'll have my support. And again, I look forward to working with you, and I guess Councilman Wilson's on the Parking Authority as well. And I did have a message from County Councilman Bobby Palmasina. He's been in bed for 3 days and is not feeling up to par. So I didn't know if he was scheduled for today or not. Oh, he wasn't. Okay, well, that's
Thank
it.
you, Councilman.
Stephanie.
I appreciate
your willingness to serve in this capacity.
Thank you so
Yep,
much.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. And I will just add that County Councilman Bob Palmasina is out sick, but we gave him a professional courtesy and did not hold an interview because we usually don't interview electeds.
Oh, I see.
So that's why he was never scheduled for the interview. So there's no miscommunication. He just wasn't
Sure.
scheduled.
Right.
Thank you, though.
Yep.
With that said, I mean, tell me if you see anything different that you'd like to add to the parking authority. What you think in your role you'll do differently there or advocate for? Is there something?
From what I
particular?
see right now, Parking Authority have a great team. You know, I've had an opportunity to sit down, discuss some of the board members, and I'm excited. I have no questions now, remain in a posture of learning more before I put myself too far out there and say something that I don't know a whole lot about just yet.
Okay.
But I'm amongst the best, and I have a lot of confidence in receiving the information that I'll need to expand upon. And I'm very confident about being a part of a great team, great staff as well.
So I'm going to just really say that I really want you to be a strong voice and to pay attention to what's going on. As Councilman Wilson knows, I feel really strongly about this board because it's tied into our pension. And to all of the employees are really looking for you and the board to have strong leadership roles and to be able to step aside and do what's right, whether there may be somebody who may want to push you to do something different. You have to be that strong voice, and I'm certain you will be. But to be that strong voice to make sure whatever you're doing is right for not only the employees of the parking authority, not only for the residents and the people that utilize the parking facilities and the meters, but for our employees overall in the city of Pittsburgh that depend on this to help stabilize our pensions. So for me, it's
and a
very
strong
important.
voice for our communities as well. It ties in with home ownership. It ties in with job opportunities. Parking Authority, Port Authority, all transportation kind of has its links to one another. So I take what you just said with
I
great
mean, it's a very
respect.
serious position as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the most serious because there are so many people relying on all of you to make some right decisions there and to be independent and to say what you have to say. I remember one time when I was on the board of Elkasan and everybody received a letter saying that, to resign from Elkasan, and they would just keep it on file just in case. And I said, no. As a matter of fact, I made such a big deal about it, hit the papers, I don't know if you remember. And then they withdrew the request because I said, my biggest concern was when I serve on a board, I'm not serving for the person who appointed me. I'm serving for all the people that this board serves, and all the ratepayers, all the whatever it is that you're serving. So I just want to always make sure. I said my independence means everything to the success of this board and to the things that they serve. So for me, that's what I always look for in a board member, to be independent. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Well noted.
No, I know that you're. No, I know. I know you have a big. You have a voice, and you'll use it. So, thank you. And
Thank
your
you.
appointment will be on for final confirmation on Tuesday. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, actually, you don't have. You're just informing, correct? Yeah. You're just informing, so we won't even vote for you. You're already on. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for your time. Again, I'm honored.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And also the Clean Pittsburgh Commission we have, can all three of you come up? Thank you for waiting so long. You might thank us, we might be tired out by the time you get here, okay? So and then I'll just tell you, please bring your mics close to you so that the public can hear you. And then you can pull it close. Thank you. I said, please pull your mics close so the public can hear you, and my mic was off the entire time I was talking. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyway, could you please identify yourself for the public, go down the line. If there's something you want to add as you introduce your name, please do so.
I'm Kelsey Ripper. I'm the executive director at Friends of the Riverfront. We're a nonprofit organization that develops and stewards the Three Rivers Heritage Trail, our riverfront trail system in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh included, as well as the Three Rivers Water Trail, which are non-motorized access points. Most relevant to the Clean Pittsburgh Commission is that we run a robust stewardship program that focuses on litter cleanup, beautification projects, graffiti removal, all within the purview of the CPC. We recruit and manage about 1,200 volunteers a year to do that, and have upwards of 100 events as well to take care of litter issues and beautification projects.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Steinberg. I am currently the Green Practices and Sustainability Manager at Carnegie Mellon University.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Sanjeev Manandar. I'm Environmental Sustainability Manager with Pittsburgh Public Schools. I have background in industrial hygiene. I live in Mount Washington.
Oh, well, now you're in. You're in. You don't have to say that word. So, go ahead, I'm sorry. Is that it? Do you want anything else?
That's it.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry. Okay, thank you. And we're going to begin this one, if you guys don't mind, with Councilwoman Strasburger, who's been here for the whole thing. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Madam President, Madam Chair, and welcome, and thank you all for your willingness to serve. This commission is close to my heart because I see the potential and I see how it's grown in the last several years as it's gotten more funding and it's been able to do more programming. And I really think that each of you has the experience to operate working with institutions that are large, but maybe not as large as the city as a whole, that we can learn lessons from, applying lessons learned from Carnegie Mellon or Pittsburgh Public Schools elsewhere to, and bring that to bear to what we can do or how we can scale up our own programs in the city. I would love to see us do things like lead by example by minimizing our own single-use plastic usage at city-sponsored events or city-held events, those types of things. I really think there's a lot of work we can do to set the example for other entities as well. So I welcome your participation. I welcome your ideas and your background and energy. And please just know that you have my support with the work that you do. And if there's anything along those lines that you'd like to add, certainly want to open the opportunity for you to respond to that, but no pressure to respond. Just know that I support you and welcome you to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson?
How's everyone doing today?
Thanks.
Great. I just have one question. Really, is what what are you looking forward to being a part of, or what's your understanding of what you can accomplish on the Clean Pittsburgh Commission?
Start with, so I've had I've been joining the Clean Pittsburgh Commission meetings for over 2 years now, and I've seen what the commission does and been able to participate in some ways, and I think it has what I'm impressed by is the representation on the committee, and that there's so much representation from the city agencies and also the nonprofit partners and community organizations, and so I think it's the perfect place to really dive into some of these issues and tackle them, not just what we're seeing, which is obviously litter and graffiti, but also addressing the root causes of it. And I think that the commission has approached it in two ways, and one is let's bring in innovative approaches and try new things and pilot those things. One of the examples was the cigarette ballot boxes that are ones outside of the city county building, but also just looking at kind of the basic things that need to happen in order to address these problems, and kind of really not forgetting those basics that are going to make a big difference. And so I think that the two-prong approach is really a good way to do it, and I'm excited to be part of that and lend my support to the work that's been going on in the commission.
I want to ask a follow-up question to that. So what's one of you said they're finding creative ways, but then also they're getting to the root causes. What's one example of them? This isn't a test. I'm just curious.
So one thing that we were talking about
one of the root
today
causes?
is garbage cans and that they just don't have lids. And that's a big problem with the litter, is that garbage cans get blown over. We have very windy days, and so garbage is getting strewn everywhere. It's not necessarily that someone's actively deciding, I'm going to litter and throw something out of their garage or their car door. So how do we approach getting people lids? Are we educating people about the importance of that? The city is the blue bins for recycling is a great step in getting to that place where we don't have to worry about people's garbage getting strewn about. So
Lids for the
garbage cans.
that people put outside on the curb.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I got my own little personal story about lids on is actually the blue bin. Oh man, I've lost it twice. Because when it's raining out, you don't want to get all the stuff that you want to get recycled. That's like paper and everything. I don't know if they want to pick up now we've added 30 pounds to the, I don't know how that plays out. So I'm thinking I need to put the lid on if it's a night when it's raining out. And, the workers are doing their job. The refuse workers are putting it in, they're taking the lid off. The lid is on, on the curb. If it's 50 miles per hour winds or 30 miles per hour winds, forget it. Like, I don't know where that lid went, so I'm like, I'm walking up and down the street like I'm looking for my dog, Like, I don't know. Yeah.
I've also picked up a lot of little pieces of blue lids that have been hit by cars. Yes, that's definitely an issue. I know that there's some people have put rope around there so that it's always attached. But I think that we need to think about replacement lids for people who've lost theirs.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I'm like, where are they going? I think someone else needed it because it happened to them. And they're like, but I've never taken someone else's lid. Let's just be clear.
They may think it's theirs because it's close to their house because it moved.
All right. Thank you.
So I can add, my background is as an educator and I work in higher ed. So I think there's an opportunity. I'm excited to learn about all of the organizations that are currently participating in helping and finding ways to connect with the campus community as well. And then it's great to look for innovative ways to prevent the accidental, but then how can we teach people to be stewards and think, want to take the time, want to worry about it, really inspire that behavior change, and then look for alternatives. Recycling is the least important of the 3 R's. Let's reduce and reuse first. So really bringing those perspectives to the commission.
Thank you. I'm excited to learn more about the work the commission has been doing. And one of the things I'd like to explore more is in terms of encouraging use of more biodegradable products, such as, for example, I use paper straws or wooden spoons and forks for in fast food restaurants in that area, and kind of relate to your experience with the blue bins. I think before the day after that it's been picked up, you can see some of the windblown recyclables. That's something around the streets, and one of the things that we can look into is possibly get the bins with lids attached to it. Hopefully that will prevent some of the windblown recyclables.
Well, appreciate you all coming today. Madam President, I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. So this is like an issue that, I don't know if you realize this, but I actually started the first anti-litter campaign. And did you know this? And then it was started
I feel like,
as a pilot program.
this often happens where you tell me you were the first one to do something.
It started.
So I'm not surprised.
It started as a pilot program in Sheridan, and then with a kid named Logan, and we had Logan's litter cleanup, and it's expanded to a full-blown city anti-litter campaign. And honestly, I think that when it started, there was such excitement. We're going to do something about the litter. We're going to do something. But then when you don't put the resources behind all that, then you don't feel that it's a real sincere effort. And I think some of that was that we expected Missy Rosenthal, who does a lot of the anti-litter stuff, we expect her to do a gazillion things as one person. Cleaning up the litter all across the city of Pittsburgh as one person. And I think that the absence of cameras and other things, we're not really good at pursuing illegal dumpers in the city of Pittsburgh. We're not. But one of the things that I just said to, oh, I'm sorry, did Councilwoman Strasburger go? Okay, I couldn't remember. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to cut her off. But one of the things that drives me insane is after trash day, after the collection, our environmental service crews work so hard, and the supervisor is amazing, and they do a lot of great things. But the reality is our crews can only pick up 40 pounds, and sometimes they'll toss something in, and it's not secured right. And before you know, there's a trail of trash. And I said, my mother lives in Scott Township now. She used to live on Fifth Avenue. When I go up to Scott Township now, I notice this huge difference in their trash collection day. Is they have trash cans that all look uniformed and clean. I mean, the trash looks clean. It's all uniform and straight going down the street. And then the next day, you didn't even know there was a trash collection because there's not one scrap on the street, nothing. And when you have in the city of Pittsburgh, you'll see all the trash left behind, either in an alleyway, on the street, things that are blown around. And to the credit of our crews, they try to do the best they can to clean up, and then they do send somebody behind to clean up. But it's just a long process, a long problem, and I really would like for us to think outside the box and how we can get some of the trash cleaned up after collection takes place, because it is an issue across the city of Pittsburgh, and it's not something that one person can handle, or even two people can handle, or even a foreman going by. They used to have hokey men. They used to call them hokey men. They used to pick up trash on the streets, and I think they still have some of that in the South Side with some of the funding that they use from Parking Authority. So I would like to see something like that citywide, is what I'm trying to say. Some way that we're putting some effort forward. So could you tell me what your thoughts are about that, and what you think you'll be able to bring to the table and different to the table? Because that's what I'm looking for at this point. Because I think I've done everything I can to try to remove trash off the streets, including participate in the cleanups. And organize my own cleanups. And our crews at DPW, they have cleaned up hundreds of tons of debris from neighborhoods across the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, several neighborhoods, several times a year. I can't even tell. In one of my neighborhoods, they do it probably twice a year, and they remove hundreds of tons of debris every time they do it. But yet, there's still and I also started the hard to recycle material program, because I thought, okay, well, because we're always picking TVs up off the hillside. I thought we have to have some kind of program. But I'm still seeing TVs on the hillside. So tell me what you think your solutions are to the trash in the city of Pittsburgh, and how we can remove it. And I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't know something, I'll just say that you'd like to look into something, or you'd just like to learn more. I mean, it's okay, because I know you're not there yet. But if you have some ideas that you want to bring to the table, I'd love to hear them. Did you want to take that?
I can quickly comment. You spoke to the uniformity of the trash bins in, I think you said, your mother's neighborhood. So what I think is great is the uniform recycle bins that have been put out, and so everybody has a bin, and there is that uniformity and that capacity. On my street, many of the residents don't use a trash bin. It's just bags out. So potentially supporting that infrastructure to get people bins, the uniformity of bins would then help keep that weight uniform, and then the containment would be uniform there too.
I'm curious if we haven't gotten ours yet in the West End or District 2 yet. We get ours in the spring. We'll get ours, but I'm curious if there was a limit on the weight of the bins. I mean, were they over the 40-pound limit? Because they look so large to me.
The current bins are under the limit, yes.
They're under the limit?
Yeah,
Okay,
and then if there is a bin that someone's using that's not within the limits, then the environmental services will put a sticker on it and say that it's exceeding the limit.
I knew about the sticker. I wasn't sure if the current bins, could hold just the 40 pounds or less. Okay. So when we get ours in our district, then we can tell them about them. Okay. Is there anything?
I think it's going to just take a lot of solutions to address some of those problems that you're mentioning, which it makes it so challenging, and why sometimes you pull your hair out and think, why am I still dealing with this?
I had thick head of hair before I came here. Let me just tell you, and it wasn't gray. Okay.
one of the things that that Friends of the Riverfront and our close partner Allegheny Cleanways that sits on the commission is doing is stewardship of your own streets and spaces, and so taking responsibility or volunteering to help address some of those issues that the city may not be able to get to in the meantime while we kind of figure out these long-term solutions. So we have a litter kit program where people can get free litter kits that have gloves and litter grabbers and buckets, and they can adopt for Cleanways grates. You can adopt streets, you can adopt parts of the trail system, and we'll keep supplying you, the materials that you need in order to take ownership of those spaces and clear them of litter. And I think that it also changes the minds of the people who are even just watching you do it, because people will I do it frequently in my own neighborhood, and people come up, oh, that's so nice of you. Why are you doing that? Oh, I just live down the street and I noticed there's a lot of garbage, and especially it was a windy day, and just changing people's minds about the way that we look at waste and trash in our city.
I don't know if you were going to ask something else. I just want to also tell you that the Explorers Club does a cleanup on the hillside of Mount Washington, and that's coming up. If you want to join us for that, that's coming up on April 1st. That's my favorite day of the year. April Fool's Day. Anyway, but it really is taking place that day. But if you want to join us for that. But I really think that for me, it's an issue that I want to help. I want to be helpful. I don't want to be critical, criticizing people, because I do know that this is, as again I said, this is over several administrations, and everybody's tried their thing to do something. But it's still there. It's like so. And I do think that an educational component is one of the things I have advocated for a very long time, and I hope that will be part of what you advocate for as well. That when they do the educational component, that they're also including businesses, and when they sell things, that they should have something for people to throw their trash on. Because a lot of times it's kids, and just throwing things. They're kids, they're not thinking about anything other than, throwing the wrapper, getting rid of the wrapper, not thinking about where it's going or what it's going to do to the environment. So it would be great to do the educational component as well. So is there anything else any of you would like to add before we wrap up? I could go on with this subject forever. It's like a sickness, okay? So I just want to say, I'll let it go. So, but I will say that your appointments, your confirmations will be put on Tuesday for final approval, okay? Thank you all for your willingness to serve. Thank you. It's going to be the most difficult part of serving, is coming before City Council on live TV and being interviewed. So thank you. We appreciate everybody who came today. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our business for today, and the meeting is adjourned.